Okay, what I want to talk to you about right now is the most important part of the sales process, which is the close and asking for the money. A lot of guys get kind of stuck at this point where they don't even feel comfortable giving the quote to the customer at the table and trying to close the customer. We call it the one call close. We have our real seasoned sales organizations who are very, very good at that. Also having one leg or two legs, meaning they demand that both husband and wife be at the table because they feel like they have a better chance of closing, and then the wife doesn't say I have to speak to the husband doesn't have to say I have to speak to the wife. So, these are I've worked with all types of people, but let me tell you, the guys who do the two legs, I need a husband and I need a wife, and I'm going in and I'm going to close hard, meaning they're going to have to just about kick me out of the house. I mean, as unethical as that may sound, those are the guys who do the most business and make the most money. Now, of course, you don't have to be brash or rude, but you need to, you need to be able to ask for the money, and you need to be confident in knowing why you're asking for the amount you're asking. Now, the reason why I say that is I go back to a client that I spoke to the other day, and he said, Kip, I really gave what I thought was a good price. And the guy looked at me confused. He looked at me dazed. He looked at me like, really? Is it that much money? And I said, well, if you were getting that look, it's because you didn't tie what you were offering. You didn't tie your cost to a value, right? Meaning the customer is looking at the quote you gave them, and there's a disconnect, a complete disconnect to the value that you're bringing to them, right? And that's because you failed somewhere along the line to build up yourself and build up the value of what you were offering so that they could say, oh, $5,000 for this, I can make the connection. We're not arguing about budget here. We're talking about strictly when you give a quote, can they see the value in the quote that you're providing and line it up against what you're offering and say, I can see the connection. Now, of course, they may say, well, maybe I can get it for less somewhere else, but they're not going to look at you dazed and confused because they're going to say, well, I understand that this is what you charge for the value you bring, but the other contractor, he's charging me less and bringing the same value, right? And you and I both know most of the times that is not the case. Usually it's apples and oranges, meaning one guy is using, lower quality material, and that's why he can give a quote at a lower price versus you who's giving a higher quote, but you're using better quality material. Now, if you're not explaining that the quality of the material that you use is better and therefore your price is a little bit more, when you give your quote, of course the customer's going to look at you dazed and confused because you've not made the connection between the cost that you're quoting and the value that you're bringing. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you're not making that connection, yes, you are not going to close deals, or you're going to have a very low close ratio. So, when you're pitching the customer, you have to make that connection between the value that you're bringing to the table, the value of the products that you're going to be installing in their home, the value of the warranty that you provide on your work, the value of doing business with you, and the estimate, the cost that you're giving the customer so that they can make a clear connection between why you're charging as much as you're charging and what you're doing for what you're charging. Now, I know this sounds so elementary, and I know you're like, Kip, tell me something I don't know, but quite honestly, there are some guys that are on my list that I know are not doing that. And I know that they struggle with, especially like Service Magic or Home Advisor leads, and they say, Kip, I'm buying these leads and I'm not closing them. I'm buying these leads and I'm just not making money. And I can tell you 99% of the time, it's because of either two things. One, they're not selling against the competition, which we talked about already, or two, they're not making a value. They're not creating value in what they're selling in comparison to the quote that they're giving. So obviously there's a whole lot that goes into doing that, and it's way too much for us to discuss on video. But again, when you become a customer or a client of mine, these are the things that I like to focus on with you. Yes, lead generation is critical. Making the phone ring, getting those email leads are critical. But you closing them is equally critical to our success. It makes no sense for me to send you a lead if you can't close it, right? Because eventually you're going to say, Kip, I can't afford you. And that has happened, right? I mean, I have clients that I've sent leads to and they just had a hard time closing and for whatever reason didn't want to change, didn't want to learn. And yeah, eventually we outgrew each other. It does happen from time to time. There are no complaints. But ultimately, if you're not prepared to provide the value between what you're bidding at and what you're offering, if there's a disconnect that the customer is having between the two, then it's highly likely they're not going to choose you. If you'd like to learn more about how you can do that, how to do it more effectively, I'd love to be able to help you. I'd love to be able to talk to you more about that. My name is Kip Charles, again, your sales guru, over and